your dreams trying to tell you something? Author M.B. Mosley teaches you how to decode your dreams and take hold of the manifestations that lay in wait for you in the waking realm. Now, broadcasting all over the world, it's the Dream Interpretation Podcast.
Hello there, Dream Zone Interpretation Tribe. You are now tuning into the Spiritual Sweet Spot Saturdays. Say that fast. I dare you, dare you, dare you. All right, guys, I'm so excited to introduce this session. It was impressed upon my heart because I felt that we are dealing with all things spiritual dream realm. So why not add little days like this? I don't know why the days have to be little, but why not add days like Saturday just to kind of get that refresher that will touch the center of our spirit. And I'm also excited to lead these sessions on Saturdays from a manuscript that I have had forever. You heard right, a manuscript. That's how much I love you guys. So. Yes. Welcome on in. Zip people, Zip Tribe, Dream Zone Interpretation Tribe. Welcome to the Saturday Spiritual Sweet Spot with your host, M.B. Mosley, Memory Ben-Gesam Mosley. I am so excited and humbled to be here with you all today. All right, guys, grab your pens and papers if you must. If you're driving, keep both hands on the steering wheel. All right. First of all, I need to give a shout out to my global audience. You know, things I forget to announce. I am so humbled and thrilled to you all that listen and tune into this podcast. And so we are on our journey to our true self. 2021 is full of a lot of amazing and delicious things for us. We have to use intentionality, the power of intentionality. Say it, speak it, and grab a hold onto it. All right. Okay. That's not what we're talking about today. I just felt like I had to release that off my chest. All right. We're not in January 2021. Just making sure you're paying attention. All right. 2021 though. We're moving right along. All right. Let's feed our soul. All right, so we started off in January with letting go of those things that no longer serve you. And then we talked about much necessary boundaries. How are those boundaries doing? I understand sometimes it's not easy with those boundaries because sometimes it's the ones that are closest to you, like family members that want to breach your boundaries. But you got to stand firm, especially if it's toxic or not healthy, I should say. All right. You got to represent yourself. You got to come up for yourself. You got to show up for yourself, right? You got to honor yourself. All right. And don't misconstrue that because listen, I know she digresses. Here's the thing about this journey, right? Society will have you believing that looking out for yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is a selfish thing. I beg to differ. Because if I sit out here and be pretentious to things that I don't subscribe to things that dishonor me, then I'm not being truthful to myself. So for me, I'd rather just really show up for myself and include the things that do honor who I am as a person. You know, not anything to serve ego, but just who I am as a person. Okay. Because society has done a real good job, you know, from the time we start going to work and stuff like that, having us act and, you know, like we really, we put on our best faces, you know, and that's okay. But we're talking about boundaries right now. So in January 2021, we started out with letting go of those things that no longer serve you. And then we dug deep into those boundaries. Put that fence up. Put that fence and protect your soul. And then now we're going to start February with forgiveness of self. Before I get into today's topic, how are you all doing? How is the journey of true self coming along? I know I'm enjoying it. I want to say that I'm thoroughly enjoying it with you all. Yes, finally I don't get to do something by myself, all by myself. But, even though I don't see your faces and feel your spirits, I just feel humbled and I feel really good. Good. I feel really good because we're doing this together. Journey of True Self. Sipping on some decaf coffee there. All right. So today we're going to talk about forgiveness of self. Understanding that on this journey of true self, right, we are getting to dive real deep into our core, into our soul, into our heart. Okay? Not necessarily to just bring out the best from us, right? Because some would argue and say, well, I'm already the best. That's okay. But just, there's something that happens spiritually when you really just give your all to something that you're trying to focus on. Something beautiful and amazing and spectacular happens. All right. So forgiveness of self. What have we heard in the world that we live in? Forgiveness is not for you. It's for them. It's for them. For them. Show of hands. How many have heard that? Just kidding. I can't see your hands. But if you raise your hand, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so we've heard forgiveness is not for you. It's for them. The wrongdoers. How do you all feel about that? I mean, we're on the journey to true self. We got to be truthful with ourselves. Right? I don't have any qualms with that statement, right? Until you have to sit up there and forgive somebody that has absolutely just wronged you. And all your emotions are just like gripping tight onto your heart and just squeezing the life out of it. And you just really just peeved. Just beyond peeved. How dare they? How could they do this to me? Why? And sometimes why me, right? Or I can't believe they betrayed me like that. I thought I knew them all these years to disrespect me like that, to do that to me, and I've never done anything to them. Never, ever. And you do this to me? But I'll just forgive you anyways because it's all good. I move along. Look, let me tell you something. There is no manual that comes with this thing called life, right? Okay, there is none, like zero. And even if there was a manual, really, would we really reference the manual? Would we really? And then the manual would not be one size fits all. So what will we have to do? We'll have to improvise and blah, 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 blah. And she keeps going. But let me tell you something. From being in that, forgiveness is not for me, it's for them. And navigating through life, finding betrayal, hurt, abuse, being victimized, finding and collecting all this pain and hurt along my journey, made it a more difficult space for me to do that whole thing. To do that whole forgiveness is not for me, it's for them. And what's crazy is I am by far one of the most forgiving people. I don't like to hold grudges. Nobody has time for that. I've always been like that my whole entire life until you get that one person or two people that do the ultimate betrayals, that then kind of take a chunk off your heart. And then, you're trying to put this placid smile on your face and think everything is okay because we're just supposed to forgive and forget. It's for them. It's not for me. Forgiveness is for me. It's not for them, or whatever the saying goes. And so now we're trying to navigate life. And I tell you something, for some of you, if you're new, welcome. Thank you so much. Don't forget to download this podcast. But listen, so, for some of you that are being listening to this podcast, right? For me, all my accumulation of betrayal, being victimized, abused, and all this other stuff over the years just kept plucking away at my heart. Grew this dark, cold heart, and I drowned myself in alcohol for 9 years straight, and just to black out the feelings, numbing them out. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to. Let me tell you something. You definitely feel when you're sober, okay? You definitely feel when you're sober. But you definitely feel when you're sober, but there's something magical about those feelings and emotions when you're sober as well. Tap into that. Conscious community, tap into that. All right, so this is what was happening, right? And so just drowning, spiraling, just gone, okay? But then, that kind of, you subside, you find a way to cope with life. Sobriety comes to you and you're making amends with life itself. I'm like, dude, life, I'm sorry, okay? I got a lot of catching up to do. And so now I was trying to navigate this thing. Then you get hurt. Hurt and betrayal has no boundaries. They don't care if you've been sober for 2 years or 1 year, or you're trying to, live a clean, positive life. But no, And I'm like, why are we all in this pot? Good people, bad people, evil people. Like, why are we all just cocooned in one big old pot, but just teasing? Anyway, so let's keep moving. So now I'm battling forgiveness. I'm not here to lie to anybody, but of course it's easy for me to forgive you if I don't know you and you step on my pinky toe and I'm like, oh no, I'm ouch, and you're like, oh, so sorry. Okay, that's fine. I don't know them. But then people you have known most of your life betray you, lie on you, just turn your back on you. How do you just forgive? Do you go to sleep and just wake up jovial? Like, didn't need that relationship anyways. Anywho, on to the next, right? Listen, this is what I'm going to tell you today. Forgiveness is a process. Okay? It's a process. It is. To me, now this is just to me. To me, it all depends on the levels. Like I said, all my life I've just been the type that doesn't like to hold grudges. Like I just, don't want to start nothing. Like, let's just, But then when because life is a big class. And so life is like, we already know you don't like to hold grudges and you don't like to, so we're going to give you the ones that we'll see how you're going to handle those lifetime betrayals of people you have known for a long time. That people for I don't know. Question. Just have that. Have people turn their backs on you and lie and just be malicious and whatever energies drive those types of people. I will never understand that. But okay, so now life is like, how are you gonna handle that? Oh, I spiraled. I was really angry, guys. Not good energy. And I wasn't angry because I always check in with spirit. Like, I don't want to be angry to the point where I cannot control myself or I want to go like hurt someone or something. No, but I was internally angry. I found a hard time to forgive these people that had done this to me, because that's how you start to end up feeling, How dare they do this to me? How dare they? No, I never said how dare they, but I could not believe people I trusted with my life. And one of the problems with me is I am a super loyal person, I guess. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, but just I've realized that over the course of life, I'm a loyal person. Like if I have a friend, someone that vibes with me and we just like eye to eye, we see eye to eye, and this is my friend, like I go hard. Like I'm like the most loyal person out there. Like, you can't say anything bad about my friend. We're not going to do any of that, no mess. But what I'm saying is like, I'm just one of those people that gravitate to what you think are good relationships to start off with and be loyal throughout. So I'm always boggled by people that are disloyal. But anywho, I digress. So at that time in life, so I was so angry because I'm like, how, I would have never done anything like this to anyone, lie on them, and people concocting behind your back to, ambush you on, whether it's at the job and stuff like this. Not everybody's your friend. Note to self. And so, and then things were happening, like, it was too much, right? And what mind likes to do in these types sometimes is start to evaluate yourself. Well, why did you put your guard down? Why did you even trust them? And then you start to think everything that I've done for them. And this is the thanks I get. I didn't even get a phone call or a text message, like, to explain the situation. Like, we start to the mind starts to search, like, trying to grasp for straws, and sometimes trying to reach for the tallest fruit in the tree, to no avail. So let's continue. I didn't like the place I was. I did not, because I was very hurt, and I didn't know how to process those emotions. I'm sure you will cry. You feel hurt, feel abandoned, you feel betrayed. I felt like, I didn't know if I was going to trust people other than my husband. So many emotions arose from these individuals. And I try to do that. I try to say, you know what, I just forgive them. Is that right? Because forgiveness is for me. It's not for them. So I'm like, you know what? I forgive them. I'm on a healing process. I'm going to heal myself. I forgive them. It's funny how we say something and expect us to take it and walk with it, especially with no intentionality, because I surely didn't have any intentionality behind that. I just said, I forgive them. But then I found it pecking away at my heart, pecking away. I was so hurt. One incident, it's like two separate incidences, areas that this happened, and it just happened like together. I'm like, geez, could we not like space these out like after a year? But it just all happened. Boom, together. A woman that had helped me throughout my journey. I gravitated to, and some of you who have heard of my sobriety story, you've heard me say that I believe, but I'm not a professional. So if you're suffering from addiction and so forth, please seek the counsel of experts and professionals. But some of you have heard from what I have already spoken. My testimony was that I ended up inserting myself in a church, finding positive vibes there, and so forth. So one of the leaders there, the woman in whom became my spiritual mother, been by her side for so many years, her and her husband, and she taught me, a lot. I was living out in the Midwest, coming from Southern California. Some of you that don't know, my family and my mother she came to California a year before us. And then after that, we relocated to the United States to join my mother from Zimbabwe. And that's close to South Africa. It's neighbors with South Africa, the southern part of Africa. So, of course, I'm 16. That happens. We're in California, total culture shock. Hello. And then later on, I relocate to the Midwest. No knowledge about a Midwest. And so boom, I'm out here 22 by myself in the Midwest. And for the first time, when I started going to this church, the lady there, my spiritual mother, we just vibed with the spiritual leader there, and we just vibed. And they took me under their wing. They call me their spiritual daughter. And one thing I have learned in life is always be accountable for myself, because one thing I cannot say is I cannot speak on how other people reacted or acted, because I don't know what their intentions were, even if intentions were clear, or because we all process things differently. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, so throughout, here's this part of my life here in this little part, just so I could explain it a little bit better. And so now I was just wanting to be sober, so I stayed away from home as much as I could and provided my hands-on as much as I can to the ministry. And I've never been one of those people that like hold people to a pedestal, because we're all human beings, if that makes sense. So, but this couple gravitated to me, and I had nothing, other than my day to day. I just wanted to be totally committed, and just kept, being committed. Sure, no matter, we spent days, weekends. I just wanted to be a help, so that I wouldn't be having idle time. And they took me in as a spiritual daughter and all this other jazz and all this other good stuff. And obviously, like, relationships go. At one point in time, there's going to be probably friction or whatever the case was. And that had not happened. I think I was there for probably like 8 years or so. So none of that. And, low key, this couple were like the parents that I would have wanted to have, I guess. I could say that's why I probably gravitated to them, and as well. And so, anyways, to cut a long story short, ironic events, or weird events happen, of course. The year that her and I didn't see eye to eye. Of course, I'm missing out a lot of details, but I'm just trying to explain so I could give you a background. Didn't kind of see eye to eye on something. And I decided to leave that ministry. But I knew myself. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave, go hang out somewhere, other places, visit, and make my way back. But, because sometimes you're going to kind of get out the smog and kind of reevaluate and continue from there. And obviously, I was like, I'm just giving myself time. Once, it was just a disagreement that didn't sit well. And once that washes over, I'll be right back, or whatever the case is, or her and I could talk about what's going on. But lo and behold, let me tell you something, you all. Let me tell you how crazy life is. February 2017, that was. So I'm like in my feelings at my house, because that's all I knew. Other than what I had going on, that's all I knew. It was a family, and I felt a little betrayed, right? And so I'm sitting out here just trying to process things. Backstory, any other time, I was like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but, just so you could get the base of the relationship. Like, I was close with this couple, at their house, really close with them. Like, we worked closely together and all this other stuff. She really was my spiritual mother and my spiritual father. Like, she literally was like more so like a mother. But somewhere when I had removed myself from that in February, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Nobody told me. I didn't know. So I had a few people that went there that I talked to that just said, oh, we hadn't seen her come, but they had not disclosed it to the congregants, of course. So nobody really knew what was going on. So I didn't know. And I was just speculating, thinking, and, but not knowing, anyways. So it happened to be lung cancer, and she passed away in October. Instantly, I was angry. First, I looked up. I was like, really, God? Really? God? Really? So you're just gonna, like, her and I needed to still talk. We needed to, like, hash things out, like, have a meeting, talk about this, and you're just gonna take her out the game just like that. Like, what's going on? So I was angry. I'm not going to lie to you at all. I was very angry. And then, of course, probably misguided anger. I took that. Then I was angry at her husband. Like, you all claimed that I'm your daughter, your spiritual daughter. You didn't even let me know that she was dying. Like, she was like my mom's. I cleaned toilets in your house like a daughter. Like, I was there. I was angry. Family. I was angry. And I was just internally just steaming. Just felt so betrayed. You call me, text me anytime, I'm there, whatever it is. Your kids were out of college and I was there and I had your back and everything, because I have a default of being super loyal. That's my default. I'm working on it. And so I was so angry. Like, what? How she did? Like, no, we hadn't talked about it. I thought I was your spiritual daughter. You didn't even text or call me to let me know to come see her before she passes away. So that didn't sit well with me. Okay, this is my emotions. Like I said, I can represent the other side because everyone has the right to think and feel how they want to feel. And so in the mix of all that emotionalness going on, we have a situation over here at the place you call the JOB. Oh, the walls of Jericho, or the walls are just tumbling down. I was in the leadership role. Things were just like coming at it 100 million times. And it was, that year, it was 3 people that quit. We roll over because that was like October 2017. We roll over to the start of 2018. But before 2017 was over, I lost 3 employees. The 3 employees I lost, one was a nurse practitioner. Her husband had found a job in Chicago, so she was relocating. The second one, she was pregnant and she had to leave. And the third one genuinely had put their 2 weeks notice. And so they left right before like 2018 came along. So it kind of happened like, the death into October, and then just some issues there, in that part of of my life. And so and I still haven't processed the death of a person that I was, the person who's like my mother. She acculturated me when I moved to the Midwest. She showed me a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot of stuff. I appreciate it. For the first time in my life, in my adult life, before I met my husband, I felt like I had somebody that actually supported me, and it felt good. And so people I loved, and so I just felt so abandoned and just broken hearted to the core. Obviously, I missed a lot of chunks in there, but we want to just get this information out, okay? And so now on this end here, we have this situation. It's not an unfamiliar situation, okay? All right, so sometimes employees do have life events that do cause them to relocate and so forth, and or just, life changes. Now, understand that the leadership role that I'd held it for close to 15 years. And always, we had about close to probably 30 years of experience, combined staff, meaning I didn't have staff members that just always up and left. And so now I had corporate. I was, when life is trying to show you a lesson or tell you a lesson. So I have no idea what's coming on this time. We turn around to 2018 and I had a new boss. And I had worked. So what happened was every so many years you get a new executive on the team. And so I had never worked with this person, and he was the co-CEO's brother. And so, but I had worked amicably with all the others, no problems, no nothing. Golly, I'd been there close to 15 years, 2018, December. And so what ended up happening was he came on board, and, with the people that I'd worked with, it's called communication, right? We communicate. Ever since I've been in leadership, I've never, done anything out of my own validity. I've always done the points, when anytime you work anywhere and you're in leadership as well, you always have somebody to check in with. And so it's always been, the company was flying me all over the place to train people, dissolve teams, to bring up teams. I'm just trying to give you a little backstory on the type of character I was when I was there. I was all hands in. They knew who to call depending on what you needed. And start working with the co-CEO's brother. I'm not trying to be funny or make excuses. Once again, this was a part where a co-CEO's brother got a position they probably were not equipped or should have been having, because I'd worked with the other executives and it was just seamless. And most of them were the ones like I'd have one of my former bosses and mentors. He would say, well, you need some memory, you can ask memory, so that's just it, right? I think this story is like fivefold. Okay. You're going to get some nuggets out of it as well. We're talking about forgiveness of self. So in 2000, probably earlier, I'd been planning like almost a 5-year, 2020, December 2020, December the 20th, 2020 was going to be my exit strategy out of corporate America, pursue writing and my passions. And so I was laying that plan. December 2018, we turn around, we got all this that's happening, and then I get this boss man, co-CEO's brother. And so the way, because this was kind of also like my baby. This company had relocated me to the Midwest, and I felt indebted. I'm a loyal person. I felt so indebted to them, and so that's why I stayed around. And it was a cool company. And so I mean, I didn't have no problems, with anyone until 2018. Pay close attention, and so what ended up happening was, in my mind, I was like, I want to lay the bricks, because this team that I had built, the Midwest team, was my baby. And what I wanted to do was make sure when I pull myself out, they continue, but with strong leadership. And so I was scouting with the people that we had, the employees there, and 2 young ladies. I thought, you know what I'll start doing is training them to be assistant managers. And so that knowingly, so when I pull myself back, then they could have a leader and an assistant manager. Obviously not telling them my plans, because people freak out when you say you're about to leave and da-da-da. But I wanted to lay that. And it wasn't anything new for the company to have 2 assistant managers with a manager already. It wasn't anything new. So I hit up the new co-CEO's brother with this idea, the idea was that I said I would like to train 2 of my best for assistant manager positions, so that they could share this position, blah, 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 did a proposal, blah, 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 blah. He approved it. He said approve. And so communication is always key. So what I did was, which I'd always done with all my bosses, paper trail, guys, email paper trail. So what I did was I always emailed them every turn. So we proposed, and I put when we could possibly start training them, and just every time emailing the steps, what we're doing, what we're working on. And so we, and I approached them about a date, an official date, where these 2 wonderful young employees could get their raise and get their position, their title switched over. And so we had said, okay, when we started this, it was close to the end of 2017. So we said come around 2018 in February, not January, because January for business is a little bit slow. But February, we put a date. We locked in a date. I knew all these dates, and I'm going back and forth, email. And I'm like, so what do you propose? What's the pay? It was a good pay for them. I mean, a great promotion. These are both mothers. They both had 3 children, young ladies. Their work ethic was amazing. So that's I felt like that was the least I could do. They had shown leadership skills. They're just, go-getters. Like, they deserve these positions. They literally did. And so February rolls around. The dates come, email paper trail. We've been talking about this. And so now towards the end of January, I'm sending a correspondence. I'm like, all right, so now is it safe to disclose the, pay amounts, because the dates are coming closer, and then, have the meeting, let everybody know what the plan. He said, yes, go ahead. And then when the date came in, so I talked to the 2 ladies, like, this is what the company is, will be given hourly, individually, of course, and blah, 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 your positions, assistant managers, boom, boom, boom. And so the date drew closer in February. So it was like the 3rd week of February. So like every week I was just emailing, we're getting closer, with the green light, boom, yes, we're good. Come the week off, close to the date off, send that email. Guess what happens? He sends me an email back and says, about that, this is what we're going to do. Let them, listen to me very carefully, family. He said, let them keep their positions, meaning the assistant managerial positions. He said, let them keep their positions, but we are not going to pay them. Utterly confused, utterly discombobulated. I'm like, what do you mean? So I respond back. Please, with needing clarification, can you please clarify? And he said, let me tell you exactly how he typed it. Listen, he goes, shh, SHHHHH dot, and says, do not tell them that we're not giving them a pay raise for the position, but let them keep the positions and assume the position. What do you do when your moral integrity is tested? No, I disagree. And Lord knows I'd been in leadership for a long time with like I gave you my examples of everyone I'd been in leadership with. I mean, we were a team. That's how you compare that with leadership. All my former bosses would just boom, boom, boom. But that is illegal. 1, 2, what? Where'd they do this at? So look, and so I said, question mark was my last response. And the day got closer. I grabbed the 2 girls to the side and I let them know. And I printed out the email. I'm sorry. No, I don't subscribe to non-integrity having people. And so I say, listen, you all know my intentions. You know what I've been working on. I'm not the gatekeeper. I'm not HR. I'm not up there in corporate. You know, we're out here in the field. And so I say, look at the response. Okay. So now I want to make sure that it is your option. If you want to assume the position of assistant manager without the pay increase, you could continue. But if you don't want to, I totally understand. In my mind, I wouldn't want to too, you know? And so the ladies was like, nope, thank you. Obviously, I mean, come on. So I relayed that back to my boss. Like, look, I had a conversation with these 2 ladies because, like, okay, you all, come on. Like, I promise you, this was so freaking weird because I was like, what do you mean don't tell them? Do they not look at their paychecks? Like, do they not know how much they make? They've been working with us for a while. So what do you mean don't tell them? Because when they saw their first paycheck in this position, they're obviously going to see something is not right. And they're obviously going to come to me. Okay? I have to answer to that. And I cannot be silent and act like I didn't know what was happening in the background. That's not the way this works. No, ma'am. So I said, you know, so that's why I let them know. And I told my boss that they know, and I gave them an option. If they want to continue with the positions, they could, but they didn't want to continue with the positions. And so I'm like, okay, back to square one, you know. After that, if I'm lying, I'm dying. After that, I get a write-up. So, you know, corporately, a write-up is like in the 3rd. So every place is different. I shouldn't even say that. But so over here, it was like the 3rd is close to termination, right? So the 3rd write-up is like, look, if you come back, sneeze, we terminate. And the 4th is a termination. I get a write-up in the 3rd. Now, not immediately after all these events, guys. There's a whole lot of events that were happening from the co-CEO's brother with no integrity. I'm just not that person. No. That's why I say I would make a bad bank robber. Don't come get me if you're going to try and rob a bank, because I'm going to stop that car and tell them police who did it. You call it a snitch if you want to. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to sit up here and just have a dark heart with no integrity having selves. And so, just be guilty. You know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to imprison myself. No. And so, I mean, events happened around that time. Oh, yeah. So events happened around that time. Remember at the top of the conversation, I talked about those 3 employees. And so here goes this thing. And then it's a healthcare industry. And so, you know, things, protocols and policies are just flying all over the place in the inbox. And a new policy has been enacted. Well, it wasn't enacted. A new policy memo has been sent out, but it's not effective yet. And so somebody on the team that I was leading, we're still operating in the old policy. And this co-CEO's brother wrote me in the 3rd, the leader, which was not even a policy, which was not what happened. I'd been there close to 15 years, remember? And so, and said that whoever the employee was had done whatever it is they had done. And because I knew a lot of people in this company, I'd been there for a long time. So I hit up the lab directors and so forth. And I'm like, hey, look, does this not take effect at the end of May? Because I was going to on vacation starting like June the 1st. And they're like, yeah, it does. And I'm like, what is going on? What's going on with this policy? It's never been like this because we're medical professionals. The people we have hired are medical technicians, EMT workers, nurse practitioners. My former thing was sonographer, okay, handling with the ultrasound machines. And so we have all kinds of, healthcare professionals that come with their healthcare professional background. And so what happened is in that case where, let's say, a machine has been messed up and being calibrated, that tech gets the write-up, not the boss, right? Crazy. I never seen this a day in my life. It's so easy for me to laugh now. It's so easy for me to laugh because I'm laughing because like, yeah, look, bruh, if you wanted me out, just fire me. Like you could have just been like, bye. But they know that they'll get a lawsuit because I've been in that company for so long. I knew the everything. Hired, fired, wrote up, did all of that. And trust and believe, guys, firing was never a thing for me. But as we get to know each other, you get to know a little bit more about me. That leadership position, I'm just like, thank you for the experience, but this is me now. Journey to true self. People will take you out of character. Don't let them. But so anyway, so now I'm facing a write-up in the 3rd. I have no record because how write-ups, remember, been there for almost 15 years in the leadership role, and how write-ups happen is you get the first and both parties have to talk about it. You have to sign for a documentation for corporate, and then you have to talk about the behavior and how you're going to do it. Second, you have to do the same thing, both parties. Third, both parties. Fourth, bye-bye, both parties. But how do I get a write-up in the 3rd? In my whole entire life of working since I was 16 years old, I had never been written up, never been late for work. I was one of those goody tissues that like to chase money. But so I'm like, how does this work? How does this work? Okay, so now I'm utterly confused. So I'm like searching for answers. Who has answers? HR. Now, understand different labor laws, states, and so forth. I researched where I lived, and they can optionally give me my employee file. They don't have to, but I wanted to test HR's integrity at this, and I said, hey, I dealt with HR the whole entire time. And so in the way everything has always been layered out, like at the top of this story, I said, there was nothing I ever did on my own because anytime you had to terminate an employee, I had to go to the next level. Hey, this is what's going on. They've gotten 3 write-ups. The 4th one is termination. This is what's happening. This was always me. What do you suggest I do? And then they say, they gotta go. So follow my boss's lead. Boom, do what I gotta do. And then it's not just my boss, because then we had a clinical department. So I go over there. Hey, talk to, whoever my boss is. This is what's going on with this employee. The suggestion is to terminate. What does the clinical department think? They say terminate. I get 2. I get 2 green lights. I do my job. I'm done. Trust and believe me, it was horrible. I hated that part of my job. Trust and believe. Anyone that says they love to fire people is probably needing some evaluation. I'm just saying. So you guys, it got so bad because I didn't like that process. Every time I hired people, I would literally put it in my speech, for real, intentionally. Please just follow the protocols and procedures that are in this hire packet so that I don't have to be on the other end letting you go. Please, I beg of you, don't let me do what I need to do on paperwork wise, because that was always my motto. I never did anything that wasn't in the handbook. And I know, anyways, let's continue. So boom, I get this. Check this out. He calls. Co-CEO's brother calls and he's like, check your inbox. I'm like, okay, check my inbox. And then that's when I saw the write-up and I'm like, I'm not understanding this, Tom. And Tom was like, yeah, well, that's him. Yeah, well, I was like, okay, how did I get a write-up in the 3rd? Then he tried to say the tech that ran a non-calibrated machine. I said, well, with that, I had paper trail. When that incident happened, I emailed clinical, and I emailed the director of the lab for instruction on how you want me to talk to this employee and what you suggest I should do. They say nothing, don't do anything, just document it. We did that. It was addressed. But here goes Tom, co-CEO's brother, saying, well, it was this tech, and I said, and then, and then he tried to say this policy that the lab had presented. I say that's in force on the 30th. I'm not understanding all this. And he went great rock on me, silent. And so I'm utterly confused. So now I arrange a meeting with the human resources and the vice president of the HR. Now, that's where you would go to, right? So like I said, I dealt with the HR manager before on unrelated things, but not like on it, probably 3 times that I'd been there, to be honest with you. Met the vice president of HR once because corporate was in a whole nother state. And so, so now I'm confused because the person that's supposed to be my boss is not really giving me solid answers. I've done these before. So how is mine in the third? If you didn't even talk to me, I didn't sign anything. And what are we doing? Like, what's my first one? What's my second one? Because I would have known, because we would have talked to any one of these people. I've never had like a bad working relationship with any of my bosses. And this is now all just weird and unfolding. And then, so I arranged a meeting, because I've always been professional about mine. You know, here's one thing I wasn't doing. I don't lead in emotion, and I'm not, about to, look at her and all this other stuff. No, we're not going to do that. I'd lasted there for having an even temperament and just abiding by the rules. So then I arrange a meeting. We arrange a meeting with HR. HR calls me, the HR manager. And then they connect to, first of all, the lady had an attitude. I was like, dang, what did I do? And so, because I was like, I had my meeting notes and everything. Because, I just wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt to test their integrity by requesting for my employee file. Since I've been written up in the third, should I not know if there's a 1, 2, which I knew there is not, because I know the process I have to sign. You can't just write someone up like he had done and say, you're written up, that's it, good luck, goodbye, have a nice day. That's not no. That's not the way it works. And so I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, she called me. I was like, hey, Molly. Hi. And in my mind, I was like, oop, okay, we're starting off like this. And she said, hold on, we're going to get Jim on. I said, okay, sure. She got Jim on. Hi, Memory. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Good. And honestly, I'm thinking like just business to business. What's going on, with this? Honestly, when I arranged the meeting, I knew off the back, because I know the liability in corporate America. They don't want to get sued if they admitted to doing something wrong. I understood that, but I just wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. And so I'm sitting there. And so Jim's like, all right, so we could start this meeting. I'm like, yeah, sure. Got my pen and paper. I'm ready. And so she just goes in. The manager of HR, she just like goes in. Like, she's like, okay, so because in my meeting note, when I was requesting to meet, I said, also looking at Missouri laws, I'm, able to request for a copy of my employee file as well. And so when she started, she was like, first of all, we're not going to give you your employee file. In my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And I was like, okay, all right. And then Jim jumps in. All right, so guys, let me tell you, he jumps in. So now, because in my mind, I'm not confused. I'm like, I didn't expect him to, because I was testing the integrity. Because if it's factual, let's say for some reason there are 2 write-ups before the third one that are in my file, then I want to see them. But they were not, because I didn't sign anything in my life there or talk to anyone in leadership to know that there's 1 or 2 on file, to even have 1 or 2 on file. And so he just jumps in and he goes, well, listen, I requested a meeting to find out about this third write-up, and what was going on and all this other stuff. And he goes, well, my husband always laughs at me because he says every time I when I switch characters, I go into character. And so Jim goes, yeah, well, you fired Alicia family. Alicia was an employee that falsified patient information. You guys, if I told you the horror stories of the healthcare industry, you would freaking throw up in your mouth. Alicia was a medical profession who falsified patient information on a patient sheet. And every time when matters like this happen in leadership, you don't do hearsay, she say. I investigated this on my own with my own eyeballs and caught her falsifying patient information. The biometrics were wrong because she had packed up her station. So how do you measure the blood pressure, height, and all this other stuff for the patient when you don't have the equipment out? Because we were a mobile unit. And so with that, I called my boss, Tom, and I told them, I said, Tom, I caught Alicia falsifying information, and it's in our handbook. And you all, my pet peeve, I'm not a perfect person, but like in the medical industry, for me, it's like taking care of your parents or loved ones. Like don't join the medical industry if you just like want to check. That's my thing. It's in the handbook. Falsifying is a no-no. So I said, Tom, how would you like me to handle this? Not only did I catch her, but another employee, Holly, saw it. So when I caught her, in my mind thinking, gosh, now I got to call Tom, Holly came up to me and said, did you see what Alicia did? So first of all, so I'm like, Tom, what would you like me to do with the situation? He says, she's got to go. I said, okay. So I called clinical, Lori, because this is her team. I said, what would you like for me to do? This is what happened. I caught Alicia falsifying information. Holly also brought it to my attention. Like, these witnesses galore. And she says, oh no, she's got to go. I said, okay. Guys, I never did anything out of my own volition. So then I prepared the paperwork. And I sent it to her, let her know, give her the paperwork to sign and all this other stuff that, you were falsifying patient information, blase, blase, blase. Nothing was unclear and unsaid. I followed the channels that I'd followed for close to 15 years. And so now, so in that phone call, that meeting with the vice president of human resources and the manager of human resources, Jim says, well, you fired Alicia. And I was like, I asked Tom and Lori, and besides, she falsified information with the witness encounter. Like, I saw that for myself. Like, and he proceeded to say, well, do I, let me, you guys, the story is now funny because I could laugh about it. I literally can't because it's been that long. But he says, well, what if I told you that the patient that you say that she falsified 2 patients, by the way. The patient that you say she falsified, we talked to them and there was nothing there. And I said, what if I told you, I had the patient information too, because I was waiting to see what we do. Do we call him back and just rectify all that? I said, what if I told, because here's the thing, he tried to play games on with me. And now at first I was confused and I'm like, what are you guys doing? We're supposed to be talking about this third write-up, but I clearly recognized that we're trying to deviate the situation and not talk about it. And now you're bringing up an employee who was rightfully fired because my boss said so and the clinical department said so. And they signed off on that. And I said, so what if I told you that Holly's a witness there, I was there, and people saw this firsthand, and you say you talked to the patient, but what if I told you the patient say it never happened? Oh, well, you fired. And I said, listen, you guys, it was so tough because I was like really like discombobulated in my mind. I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, is this reality? Is this happening now? You guys, the story you're hearing about, if you remember the dream that I talked about snakes, riding on snakes in the car, that dream happened. And then the next day, this is the meeting, okay, of what transpired. So you might want to go back to big snakes, dream meaning of big snakes. That's where I talk about some things that one manifested itself like literally the next day when we were in this meeting, and I was really unprepared. And so, and so he was like throwing out information. Like he goes, and you, oh my gosh, he goes, and they're grasping at straws. They're trying to avoid a lawsuit. Like I would have gone down without all of that. I just wanted you to be human enough to say, you know what? Look, I told my husband, I was like, I know you're not going to say we're sorry for him putting you in the third. You don't deserve it in the third write-up. But at least just say, you know what? We'll look into it. I'd have been fine with that. If they said, you know what? We'll look into it and they never did, I'd have been fine with that. But Jim started like pulling at straws. He says, well, what about the 9 people that have left? Family. I told you it was 3 people that left. It's on record. They know why they left. I said, excuse me, 9? And so now I'm like, 9? In my mind, I'm like, who are these people? I was like, I named the 3 and the reasons. And so it's just like they're pushing stuff at me. And now in hindsight, I realized it was to derail me completely. And then Molly's like, well, if she falsified information, why didn't you grab the patients before they left? It's not in our protocol. Grab the patients before they leave. No, we call them back after we talk to corporate and rectify the situation. And secondly, my job is not to micromanage these people. They're technicians, right? And so therefore I talk to my boss and clinical and they say they have to go. We don't do that. We don't pull somebody back and say, and then she say, well, why didn't you tell Alicia what she knew she did? No, you don't keep people that falsify patient information on a chart. That's fraud. I said, you all would have wanted to get a lawsuit. That's what I asked them. You want a lawsuit instead, right? Somebody saying that we let a patient leave with like high blood pressure and they go out there and stroke out, and because she's lied on the form, made them all normal. Well, they go out here and something major happens and these records have been falsified. Oh, that they just were like, well, yeah, we could. I said, no, it doesn't work like that in the medical industry. They know that. They know they HR. They wrote the handbook, and so I'm like, no, you can't keep somebody that falsifies information that's in the handbook. We follow the handbook regulation, the rules and regulations. And I called Tom, and Tom says she has to go, and I called Laurie, and Laurie says she has to go. And so you guys, that was like a derail. So remember, my spiritual mother died here, and then coming around the corner in 2018, all this mess is happening. I had to question my sanity. So when I took my vacation, I did something I never thought I'd ever do in my life. I never went back. I cannot deal with people with no integrity. And then I was so confused with like the HR department and how they handled that, and what hurt my heart, the betrayal of it. And once again, I'm just loyal to things. I was loyal to them because they relocated me here. I was loyal to them because I grew in my position. The bosses that I had were phenomenal, mentors that really taught me the ropes of corporate America, that gave me the chances to climb up the rungs. Now, it's a big organization. Corporate is in Ohio. I don't live in Ohio. Most of us don't live close to there. We just spread out everywhere. But what I'm saying is the relationships I built with the bosses that I worked with and the teammates that I worked with was phenomenal. It was amazing. And so I say all that to say, like, it's not like, it's not a building you go into, you see your HR people every day or anybody in the corporate. Remember, I saw Molly once, dealt with her like 3 times. Jim, I saw him once in real life. And that was it, a long time ago. And so now I'm out here on my vacation. After they finished, I ended up crying because I was so confused. I had never experienced this in my whole entire life, where people could falsify and just like blatantly lie to you in your ear. I consider them people to be evil in my books. My husband was literally sitting next to me when the phone was on speaker, rubbing my back because I was done talking, because all these things Jim was like, and you don't know how to keep employees. Who talks to people like that? Who talks to your 15-year-old tenured employee that's never called off sick, that's never you guys, that's how bad I was. I never wanted to call off sick because my position, I did do 2 things, and I felt bad to leave people hanging. And I suffer from cluster headaches. Okay. So oxygen tank in hand or not, I'm at work when I'm scheduled to. I'm off when I'm not. But my commitment, my loyalty to the whole entire program, working weekends when I didn't have to, like, it was just because I'm weird like that. But my loyalty is just misplaced. No, I'm just teasing. I got to hone that loyal energy to something else. And so I was really hurt. I'm not looking for, oh my gosh, you're awesome employee of the month, a hug and kudos to you. I never looked for that. I just, because of my grandmother's story, one day I'll tell you all, but whatever I do, I just want to do it to my best. Whether if I'm going to scrub a toilet, whether if I'm going to manage a whole Midwest team, whatever it is, I like to do it to my best. And the fact that they didn't have anything solid on me, because in my mind I was like, I wish they really did, because in this organization people had stolen money, embezzled money, all kinds of stuff. I wish they had something like that. It would make much more sense. But then to sit up here and concoct a whole entire lie to deviate from my question made me really search inside and realize that I don't want to work for an organization or people that are evil. Lie to me once, but just don't make up stories. You said 9 employees quit. What? That's half of the whole team. Half of the team. 3 people left. They knew why. Oh, I hear you. He said, I hear. They were so hurtful, you guys. I was crying. They said, I hear you don't know how to keep, like 2 people that live in Ohio, work at the corporate office in Ohio, had never ever worked with me in the field to see what we do. Snow, sleet, rain, thunder, whatever it is, 154 hours every 2 weeks, including travel, not out here. But then you make this whole determination over the phone to deviate from my main question. I was hurt. I was left questioning humanity. I had never met these types of people a day in my life. So imagine, spiritual mother dies. I'm a hot mess because like nobody like told me that she had lung cancer. She was dying out of, at least wanted to go do amends or something like that. And then you turn around, just not even 6 months have passed, and you got these people. Once again, the snakes, big snakes is the podcast that will associate to this part right here. And the dream tried to warn me the day before the meeting, but I didn't heed to that dream. And the next day you got people just like making up stuff. In my mind I was like, if it's that bad, like in my mind I was just like, just fire me, like just be like, you're fired, you know what, bye. Like I wouldn't have been hurt. But they proceed to tell me all these lies, because they can't find anything. Like I said, it would have been easier if I was embezzling funds or something, but like, you know what, we looked at your records and you were totally embezzling, goodbye. But no, so now they make up stuff. And what hurt me the most was I had lived my whole entire life already in that sector, walking on eggshells. And I'm not trying to be funny or whatever, but I was walking on eggshells. Okay. And one day I'll go into details of that. And walking on eggshells, I had to do everything by the book, not forcibly, but because I didn't want anyone looking at me like she doesn't know what she's doing or whatever it is. And that's why I operated the way I did. But let's say, anyways, and so I was crushed after that, and they were like, okay, they literally yelled at me. Like I was done talking. I was over here. Like I literally at the end, I had to be like, okay, so that's it. I gotta go. Like I had to go because I had been like verbally just insulted by the HR team. Whose company does that? The HR team. And you know what? The CEO, Colin, he is so amazing. He was a humble guy when I met that man. And lo and behold, does he not know that his brother is out here running amok? But, so anyways, and so, so I'm crying. My husband's rubbing my back and we're on speaker. My husband's shaking his head. They're raising their voices. Like, just telling me that I'm a bad leader. Or they telling me all this stuff that's never ever been brought. Remember, we do employee reviews. You sit down with I had a once a week call with the executive team. Nobody said anything negative. There's no record on paper about any of my performances, anything. But now you're out here just bombarding me with all kind of things and employee retentions that are not true. You're out here telling me that, I don't know how to keep employees, and I fired Alicia who falsified some documents. What do you want me to do? And this is what I'd ask Jim. I say, Jim, because you got to understand something about the job, right? Especially if you're in the leadership role. If I didn't say anything, let her just write. She was going to continue to falsify. It probably wasn't her first time. She had gotten caught. But what about the day that someone walks out that door and dies of a stroke, or a major thing happens and they reevaluate the last time they saw a medical professional and it was us? And then that family gets ready to sue. And when they sue a company like that, they're going to look at the leadership. Who's the leader over there? Oh, she is. Then I get fired first. Never be able to get barred from working in the medical industry. No, ma'am, it doesn't work like that, and she would probably just get fired, and she was on her way to being a nurse practitioner. Good luck to you all out there. You better, conscious community, you better stay all the way woke. Okay, I'm trying to tell you about this medical professionals. I've seen it with my own eyes. Anyway, so just taking into consideration the ripple effect. That's why I couldn't believe HR and the vice president of HR would be this nasty. But you know what? Sometimes the universe doesn't, because that's what I had to say. I was like, you know what? Sometimes you don't get a soft nudge. Sometimes things happen to maneuver you to where you need to be and remove you from where you should not be. Because I had honestly overstayed my welcome. I was comfortable over there. Position, pay, everything was comfortable, but I knew that I had put that I was going to stop working there 10 years into it, and I never did. So I grew comfortable. That's the thing. So anyways, so that happens. And then towards the end of the call, they're like, and by the way, make sure when you come back, this is how they're talking to me, like I'm a little pet. And when you come back, you better make sure you do this, you do. And I, like what? Where are you guys coming from? Like, have you read all my reviews? Have you read my working relationships with anybody? There's like nothing on file until this thing you all and the co-CEO's brother cooked up. But so anyways, so I said, okay. So when I hung the phone up, tears had been streaming. I was hurt. I was in pain. I questioned humanity. I didn't know people could be like this. Like I did. Like, see, I have naive blind spots. I do. And I've always believed that my naive blind spots were, shields, protection, from seeing the nitty gritty too. I'd never dealt with people like this. Like I have a problem with people that lie in general. But if you're going to lie about me and you just make it this deep, that was crazy. Like, where I don't know. I don't know. Like, I was just blown. I was so angry. I was angry because I put in my time into this organization. I was hurt because, and I felt betrayed. Because not one day did I ever complain. I didn't even know all the departments like that. I knew where I needed to go. But what I'm saying is, if you ask anyone in corporate in Cleveland or in Ohio or in Austin, Texas, if you ask anybody anything about me, I was not a noisemaker. I ran the business. I dropped the deposits every night into the bank every night. Okay. I made sure work was done. Whether work was done at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., way late after hours. That was, I was married to my career. And so I was so hurt that after you do all this service, you put in your time. I knew I wasn't going to retire there. And I knew I overstayed my welcome, but you put in all this time. The least they could have said is, you know what? You've been working with us for a long time and we want to thank you. You know what? Let us get back with you and check into it. Had they said that, I would have never said, I would have still probably been there, not pursuing this wonderful podcast, and wouldn't have finished my first series to a phenomenal series of Nehanda, The Awakening of a Sun Warrior, plug in. And I wouldn't have finished Greenwood, an excellent novel to be published. So I wouldn't have done a lot of things. Okay, we get it. Okay, that's the universe, right? Go with the flow. Go with the flow of the universe. Sometimes it hurts. So I was literally shooketh to my coreth. Stayed in bed for like 6 months, sometimes crying because I didn't understand how human beings function. Far from what and the naivete part of me is, I just felt like, you treat people how you want to be treated. It's reciprocated. Like, even going into the meeting, I was chill. I wasn't there to confront anyone. I just wanted to we have business wise, we have an issue here. How do we solve it? That's what I was looking for. And so I just felt the world crumbling down. My spiritual mother's gone. I have no shoulder to lean on. I don't know how to process this. It was heavy. It was heavy. It was heavy. I couldn't get out of bed. Angry. Angry at everybody involved. Angry. The girl that never held any grudges was all of a sudden really just holding some. All of a sudden really holding some. I was angry at Molly. I was angry at Jim. I was mainly angry at Tom. Like, you just gonna write me up in the third and not explain yourself? I was angry at, believe it or not, weird, the people I worked with, because they knew it was a whole bunch of bullcrap. You know what I'm saying? Like, when all these events we were kind of close in these events, and I was like, nobody even said, you know what? And they didn't know about the meeting, but they knew about, when I got the third write-up, they knew about that, because I was like, what is this? Everybody was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's this crazy? Blah, 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 blah. I know when you're angry, sometimes anger is misplaced, but I'm just letting you all know, every single person I worked with, I was angry. I felt betrayed by all of them. From HR, VP, Tom, especially those three. Oh, those three stayed really at the tip of my anger. Betrayed. I did not want to forgive him. I didn't know how. And I mean, it's not like I didn't know how, but I couldn't just, I'm going to forgive you because it's for me. And by all means, I do understand that whole theory too, because all these people I was angry at, they went on with their lives. Obviously, they didn't know I was angry. And then we look over here, the things that had happened, not even less than 6 months. How are you going to be angry at somebody that's dead and gone? But I was angry. I was angry because we didn't finish our conversation. How could you die? What do you mean? You tapped out. I was angry at a person I called a spiritual father, treating me like a stranger. I was angry. Didn't even call me or text me, hey, I don't know what's going on. I know we haven't seen you in some months, but just FYI, she is on her last breath. If you want to kind of see her, lung cancer. Angry. Those are the people. I felt betrayed. I cried. Sometimes when you really push to the max, like me, I'm like, I'm never going to trust people ever again. I don't want anything to do with people. But, that all washes away. Angry. I tried to move. I tried, and when I say move, it's just like, get that thought process out of my mind. And my anger was never to do anything like harmful to them. I've never been that angry at people, but I was just angry at the situations, angry at these people. Like, how could they do this to me? I was hosting anger in my heart and unforgiveness. I didn't do anything to these people. I didn't do anything to Molly. I didn't do anything to Tom. I didn't do anything to Jim. If anything, I made y'all money and showed up on time. And I was considerate, always at work when I'm, was supposed to be. And even when they needed somebody last minute, I was angry. I was angry at the whole system. I was angry over here at my spiritual father and even my spiritual mother. Felt betrayed, abandoned, alone. My loyalty, just why? I cried. You guys, if you have any emotions, I say go for it. And I always tell my sisters that if you're going to cry, cry. I cried my eyeballs out until I couldn't cry anymore. And I wanted to move past that anger as soon as I could. But the more I forced myself, the worse it became. So hear me out and hear me clear. The universe does not believe in the law of forcing anything. Remember, everything happens naturally. You got to let life unfold naturally. Okay. That's the aspect that was missing in this forgiveness journey. I kept trying to force because society tells me that I have to forgive them for myself. But every time I says, well, put on a plastic smile and be like, well, I'm over that. I don't even see them. I don't care. I don't deal with those people. That's how you get, right? To be tough. But the more I did that, the more I closed my emotions and feelings, and I internalized. 8. I was misdirecting because in my mind, I'm trying to force myself to act like you're forgiving those people. You're forgiving them, like shaking my head. You're forgiving them. You're forgiving them. It's done. Water under the bridge. I don't even see them. I don't even care. No. Tears were catching up with me. I was crying. I was so broken. Then that anxiety, I had never experienced anxiety a day in my life. Then it came. Like when I would think about the situation, because I had to go to the doctors because I thought I was having like a heart attack. I was like, what's going on? Am I dying? And they got me in there, put me on an EKG, and they were like, everything is checking out. Like, never had felt that feeling before. And he said it's anxiety. I was like, oh my gosh, if this is how anxiety feels, I don't want it. Because then it's like every time I sat there and thought about these people thinking I forgave them, just that heart would just drop. And it just was crazy. The weirdest feeling you'd ever felt in your life. And I hated feeling like that. I did because I wanted to forgive him, but I couldn't. Not I didn't know how. I couldn't because every time I say to myself in my mind, I'm forgiving them, I wasn't. Because then I would cry. Then I would think about him and I'd be angry. And my message to you, finally, now that we're here, is that, listen, yes, forgiveness is mainly for you because the culprits don't know. They're going on about their lives. I understand that part. But also, allow yourself. Okay. Today's message is forgiveness of self. Allow yourself the grieving. It helped me. I mean, do what you got to do, but listen, allow yourself the grieving process. Every time I find myself in different situations, and I tell my sisters this, I give myself the grieving process. Okay. If I have to cry, if I have to yell, if I have to scream, I have to get the emotions out. Get the emotions out. Understand that where you are today, if you are feeling some type of way about someone and you're finding it hard to forgive them today, it'll be different a year from now, same day, next year. It'll be different 2 years from now on January the 30th, 2023. Okay. But the process is as long as you're progressing in your healing, that's what healing is. See, the preconceived notion is that healing has to, with like me, like I used to think, okay, I got to get over this. I got to forgive them. Like they were in my mind and they were consuming me and I had anxiety and I just like, felt like the whole entire world was after me. And so it in my mind, it's like I was trying to rush and force myself to forgive these people. And every time I rushed to force myself to forgive them, my palms would sweat. I'd get anxious and it just, all these things would just come bombarding me at once, emotions and feelings I never felt before. And I had to chill. I told myself, you know what? We're going to stew in this. Stew in it. You want to stew in it? Stew in it. Hey, everybody's coping and healing process is different. I said, stew in it. You want to have a pity party memory? Have one. You're going to have a pity party for 30 days. Go ahead. Start crying. Have your pity party. Say, why me? Why they do this to me? I can't believe they did this to me. Have your pity party. Have it. 30 days later, I came out. Pity, because I say I do 30-day increments with my process. So I said, okay, done. Because I said in 30 days, we promise we're moving on to the next because we got a lot of stuff to get off. So we're going to do pity party for 30 days. When we get done with that, we don't want to hear any more pity party. We don't want to hear why me. And then 30 days came and left, cried, emotions, did everything, pity partied all the way to the 30th day. Next month, what are we working on? We're still going to cry. What do you feel like? Okay, you're feeling really betrayed. Okay, go for it. Feel really betrayed for 30 days. Let me see how you do after that. So I started to do, that's just me. Started to do those processes and I allowed myself to feel every single emotion I had to. I had suppressed my emotions for so many years, especially in alcohol. And I knew that if I didn't express my emotions, I was afraid that I would probably try to find something that would help. So I have to express and feel my emotions. When I felt like crying, I cried. When I felt like dwelling on something, I gave myself a short period to do it because what I had promised myself at the end of it is we're going to forgive ourselves. Let's first do all this stuff that we want to do. We want to pity potty, wallow, and do all this other stuff and feel betrayed and feel like everybody's against you and all this other stuff. Let's just do that. Let's get it out the way. Get it out the way. Get it out the way. 2 years later after this ordeal, yes, 2 years later. Yes. But understanding those 2 years, I wasn't walking around like with like, just a, upset face or just, forget the whole world. Because the healing happens. It happens in spats. Like you're going, I'm out here, I'm good. And then the next 5 minutes, you're like, why? No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, 2 years later, out of sight, out of mind, I was doing other things. I was, I started to, just focus on my writing, things that you're passionate about. I hadn't forgiven him. I knew in my heart I hadn't. I knew it. I could feel it in my heart. Because I was like, what's the reason of me lying to myself? Why would I lie to myself? I hadn't genuinely forgiven him. I had mouthed it and bit my back of my teeth and said it, forgive him. It didn't happen. I had to, listen, right? We're the conscious community. Right? We're always itching for journeys and higher consciousness. Everything in life happens the way life is supposed to happen. Now, if we can hold on to that and understand that in that same breath, we're letting life unravel naturally. What do you mean everything happens that way? Even you being betrayed, how would I have avoided it? I didn't know what was coming. Life happens, right? Life happens, but taking a hold of that situation in that journey, every single journey, taking a hold of the journey and the moment doesn't necessarily mean everything in the journey and the moment will always be fruitful and positive and just, skipping on the yellow brick road. It means also taking those life lessons, because eventually when I pulled that journal out, I wrote the letters to these people in my journal, each short sentence and paragraphs. Dear Molly, dear Jim, dear Lori, dear so-and-so spiritual father, dear so-and-so spiritual mother, I forgive you. And I listed why I forgave them. I had to write it. I forgive you for doing this. And then not only after writing, because it's not a super pill. It's not like, okay, I wrote that. Oh, it just felt good. It felt good. Taking your power back, it felt good. And then my last step was to forgive myself. That's the most important thing. So if you're a person that feels like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've forgiven these people, but it's still sitting in my heart, I feel the topping, the cherry on the cake, the ice cream perhaps, is forgiving yourself. Yes, forgiveness is for them. But if we don't forgive, for me, I should say, when I felt like I didn't forgive myself, because what really aided me, remember when I would do my 30-day pity potty, is because I felt like I was taken advantage of. I felt that, I was used. I felt this. I felt. That's how I felt. So memory, I had to forgive you for feeling used. I had to forgive you for feeling vulnerable. I had to forgive you, for being so loyal to people that are not loyal, or to being loyal to systems that are not loyal. I had to forgive memory for everything that she had set up here and cried for. You didn't know any better, baby girl. This is life. What are you learning? Forgive yourself. If anything, forgive yourself. Because what do we usually, I knew it. I shouldn't have done that. That's what we always do. Even before I even went for this, I had 2 offers at that time, and there was a lucrative one, but it wasn't full time, and I could have gravitated to that one. And I always had questioned, if I made a better decision of both or whatever. And so what would have been the first thing that a human reaction would have been? I knew I should have went with that other one. I shouldn't have ever put my time into this. All of that. Forgive yourself. You got to forgive yourself. Let your healing be complete by forgiving yourself. It's okay to not know. I didn't know it was going to turn out like this. I had no idea that human beings were like this. I mean, I'd experienced certain levels of human beings, but that was the top tier. I was like, hello, goodbye. So the process, when I finally forgave myself, it liberated me. I felt good. I felt good to talk about it now and really laugh about it, because it's I never thought I would ever see this day where I could laugh about it, talk about the story, and and not really have emotions behind it, because every time I thought about it, talked about it, I broke down and cried. So now I feel good because now I've forgiven myself. And then you forgive yourself and say, what are the lessons we're going to learn first and foremost? That we'll never put ourselves in that predicament again, right? Well, who would have known that a whole entity that's developed in a system to protect employees would turn their vicious backs on an employee like that, right? So, I mean, it's just things that in that catapult me to being in this entrepreneurship little zone that I'm in. Even though, if you spend most of your life working, you're so used to it. So those were things that I had to also work on liberating myself from those strings, So those are some of the things, right? So, I mean, finding the beauty out of the situations that you come from, because if life was always peaches and cream, we wouldn't really be learning a lot, right? I thank the universe for guiding me here. Because now I'm here, I feel free, I feel liberated, and I'm able to really that career was super stressful. Wrote books around that career, but it was super stressful. I don't have that in my life. I don't have it. I don't have a phone going off at 3 a.m. with somebody calling off and it's going to be my problem. I don't have those concerns, and so for me today and for me today, and my message from me to you is just forgive yourself. You didn't know. No, and nobody prepares you for such things. So forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Life is not predictable, right? Don't hold on to that. Because sometimes, with me, I was holding on to anger because I was more so angry at myself, really. Because I felt like I put myself in those predicaments, trusting people to that level and being loyal to them. So then forgiving myself liberated me. It freed me. It freed me. I love you guys so much. You owe it to yourself to forgive yourself. And remember, when you're going through a healing process to forgive, and give yourself the time you need to grieve and cry. The concept of society, yes, forgiveness is for them, but it's also for you to liberate yourself. I mean, forgiveness is for you. I keep mixing the statement. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. Absolutely. But it's also a lesson and a process, and everybody deals with it differently. I love you guys so much. Stay blessed. Life is happening right now, not tomorrow. Not yesterday, but today. Seize the moment to enjoy each day while en route to your intended destiny. A quote by Memory Ben-Gessemer. If no one has told you this today, I love you. I appreciate you. And yes, we can do this thing called life.